You're watching 13 WMAZ Law Call, sponsored by Macon law firm Reynolds, Horn, and Servant. Your rights, your calls, live. This is 13 WMAZ Law Call.
Well, hello and good evening and welcome to Law Call. I'm Morgan Dukes, and tonight we're going to be talking about justice. Yeah, we got some wonderful attorneys tonight to talk to us a little bit about what's going on and how you can meet some of your legal needs, if you will, if you happen to be in a low income situation. So first of all, from Reynolds, Horn, and Savant, help me welcome Marty Sin. How you doing, Marty?
I'm good, Morgan. How are you?
I'm always feeling good.
Always
And
good
thankfully, no personal injuries, so I don't have to call on you this week.
That's good. You know who to call if it happens.
That's right. Indeed, I do. And you have a guest with you tonight that's really here to help a lot of people who might be dealing with a personal injury case. Why don't you introduce them?
Yeah, we have Mike Horner here tonight with us, and we're going to try to help him get some information out. He's with Middle Georgia Justice, and they help kind of bridge the gap between or for people who may not be able to afford attorneys or can't pay full price for an attorney, but still need that help and that knowledge and that experience. And it's a really good program, and Mike has really helped get that off of the ground. I mean, he's carried the load for that. And so he's here tonight to kind of talk with us about that and answer some kind of general questions that people have and kind of showcase what they do and how they help people.
Okay. Well, Mike, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you for that introduction, Marty.
You're welcome.
Well done, Marty. Listen, let's get into it by asking a question that really both of you can answer. So, Mike, we'll start with you since you are our guest. At Middle Georgia Justice, how does a person get paid? Max wants to know this question. What kind of cases do you take on, and who's eligible for help? How does that come about?
The best way to answer the first question, which cases we take, is to tell you which cases we don't take. So as Marty accurately said, we're here to bridge the gap. We call it the justice gap. So criminal defendants have the right to a court-appointed lawyer. You got the public defender's office. It may be imperfect at times, but they do have access to a lawyer. So we don't do criminal defense. Personal injury lawyers can call a lawyer like Marty or someone and get access to a lawyer without having money up front. So we don't handle personal injury cases because that's not really a justice gap. What we do handle is pretty much everything else that falls under civil law. Civil just means not criminal. And so what that really works out to is a lot of family law cases, which include adoption, divorce, legitimation, all those kinds of things, probate, property, you name it, any legal problem you got that's not a criminal problem, we try to help people with. And then the one other thing is, so we don't defend people on criminal cases, but we do help people with their criminal records and trying to get those cleared up.
Okay. Now, Marty, I want to ask you the same question for someone who might be watching tonight and wondering the same thing. What type of cases do you take?
Well, we mainly focus on injury cases. And as Mike mentioned, those cases generally don't require any money up front. We do those on contingency fee basis, which means we get paid after the client gets a settlement or a jury verdict. But we do kind of help quarterback all kind of issues for the clients that we do have. And we have referred clients over to Mike and Middle Georgia Justice. So even if it's not an issue that we specialize in, not an injury issue, we kind of help our clients get any kind of help they need. If it's not a question we can answer, then we can help get them over to Mike.
Okay.
Well, I realize I didn't answer your second question. Who's eligible for our services? That's actually very important. So if you don't mind, so we assist people with cases in Bibb County and the counties that touch Bibb, so Jones, Twiggs, Houston, Peach, Crawford, and Monroe. I think that's it.
I think so.
Did I miss one? Okay. Anyway, so Bibb and the counties that touch Bibb. So number one, you got to have a case in one of those counties. And number two, your income has to be less than 3 times the federal poverty limit. And a lot of people don't know what that is, but we can check that for you if you call our office. But those are the two things that determines if someone's eligible for our services.
Okay. All right then. Well, let's move on to some email questions because Carolyn has an email question and she definitely wants an answer. So I want to make sure we give her an answer to her question. All right, here's her question. My grandma left everything to my dad and my aunt, but my aunt died in 2015 and grandma never updated her will and now she's in hospice. What will happen with her estate? Now, this is a very popular thing that goes on with people. They have a will and something happens and they never update it. So, Mike, where do we go from here?
Well, as with anything in the law, every lawyer is always like, well, it depends. But and here, there's just a lot we don't know. But what I can do is just answer some general things. So first of all, just because she's in hospice doesn't mean she can't update her will right now. I mean, it would depend upon whether she could have a physical problem that has her in hospice, but still be mentally alert and awake. So that's the first question that comes to my mind: is grandma still capable of understanding enough to execute a new will? And that could be done right there. So if she's not, and I guess I'm assuming that that's the concern, is that grandma can't do that, but it's unclear. If she can't, then that could go a couple different ways. Usually, a will provide for this sort of instance. It'll say in the will, if this person predeceases, means dies before I do, then their share goes to this, that, or the other. And then I believe, I'm no probate expert, if all that fails, grandma can't do a new will, the will grandma's got doesn't say what happens to auntie's share, then I believe it would go to the aunt's heirs. But there's just a whole lot of unknowns here. It's kind of difficult to answer, but it's a good reminder to make sure your will stays updated when life changes.
Okay. Well, our next question comes from Tamika, and this might be a relatively quick answer because she's in need of a divorce, she says. I want to get a divorce from my husband, but my husband refuses. What should I do? Is this something that you can help me with?
Well, the short answer is yes, assuming Tamika qualifies for our services under those two, geographically and financially. Assuming that she does, family law issues like that are really a lot of what we see for various reasons. Georgia Legal Services, who we don't compete with, we work hand in glove with Georgia Legal Services, even though they're totally separate. We work with them. But most family law cases, they can't help people on for a variety of reasons. It's not worth going into. So for that reason, we see a lot of family law cases that they actually send to us. So if she qualifies, the answer is we can help. And to answer the first question, it doesn't matter what he wants. If you want a divorce, he doesn't have to agree.
I would imagine that's pretty common.
Okay.
Yeah, usually, although we see a lot of people where they're both like, yeah, it's over. But oftentimes you got one party doesn't want a divorce, but nowadays they don't have to agree.
That's right. They don't have to agree. All right. Marty Sid and Mike Horner are our attorneys tonight. We're going to be back with more of your questions right here on Law Call.
You're watching Law Call on 13 WMAZ with personal injury attorney Carl Reynolds, who has recovered more than $500 million for his clients, dedicated to helping injured Georgians for more than 50 years, plus support from his Macon law firm of Reynolds, Horn, and Servant, including attorney Wendell Horn, focused on protecting the rights of car and truck wreck victims across the state, and attorney B.J. Servant, aggressively representing those injured by medical malpractice, hosted by award-winning broadcaster Morgan Dukes, featuring guests from across Middle Georgia. Your rights, your calls, live. This is Law Call on 13 WMAZ.
And welcome back to Law Call. I'm Morgan Dukes, and our attorneys tonight are Mr. Mike Horner from Middle Georgia Justice and Marty Sin from right here in Macon at Reynolds, Horn, and Savant. And tonight we are dealing with Middle Georgia Justice. We're finding out all that they do and how they can contribute, and we're taking and answering your email questions. So let's get to the next one. This one comes from Barbara, and she has a very important question. She says, I'm raising my grandchildren since their parents are no longer in the picture. What do I need to do to become their legal guardian and possibly adopt them? So what should Barbara do to become a guardian or their mother?
So this is going to almost certainly, by Barbara, require that she get an attorney to help her with this, especially on the guardian issue. And how complicated that is depends on all kinds of things, whether there's anybody that's going to object to it. It sounds like the parents, I don't know what parents no longer in the picture means. Sometimes parents out of the picture suddenly get in the picture when you talk about taking their kids away. So this is most certainly going to get complicated and likely would need the assistance of a lawyer. And we see a lot of cases similar to this. And this probably as good a time as any to sort of talk about, so what happens? Say Barbara has this issue and she calls our office. What happens then? So Barbara or anyone else would call and speak to our office manager. Her name's Debbie. And Debbie would ask some questions, first of all, to try and make sure that the person qualifies for her services. And sometimes that's hard to tell, but she does her best to get that kind of information. And then finds out generally what the case is about. And so how we had normally helped people, and really the only way we helped people up until this year was Debbie would then schedule them for we call it an interview. They'd come in, we'd get some more information about their case, get some documents and stuff, and then we would try to match them up with one of our volunteer lawyers that we call the Justice Brigade. And these are just lawyers in the community who are good-hearted and have agreed to donate some of their time to help people that we see and that we kind of pre-screen for them and send over to them. So, and with Barbara, that would probably be the way her case would have to be handled, because these issues require a pretty high level of expertise. We do handle some cases ourselves. Yeah, I'm a lawyer. We handle some things in-house, but particularly for cases that are going to be complicated, we try to get one of our volunteer lawyers who's an expert in that field, the Justice Brigade, to work on them. And then there's other ways that we help people too with other types of issues, and I can describe those if y'all want.
Well, Marty, now are you a part of the Justice Brigade in your own way?
Well, we definitely support the program, but because we do mainly personal injury, like Mike said earlier, that's not really the type of cases they can help people with. And so, our specialty is those injury cases. That's what we know. That's what we do. So if it gets outside that, we do send them to Mike, but we do support the program and happy to help any way that we can. But it's definitely a good service, and what they do in getting people involved that are experts or specialists in their field really helps the clients out.
And Morgan, there's a lot of expertise, a lot of general lawyer experience in that office over there at Reynolds, Horn, and Savant. So even though, like Marty said, it rarely comes up to where one of their lawyers would actually be referred one of our cases, because they do mostly personal injury and we don't handle those. There's been many times, though, I've relied on one or more of the lawyers in that office that have some questions just about general procedural things, because there's just years and years of general legal practice experience over Reynolds, Horn, and Savant. So while they're not really official Justice Brigade members, I do rely on them for their wisdom, and especially Mr. Reynolds and BJ Savant and Mr. Horn.
All right.
Very kind words.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, let's get back to some more questions, see if we can help somebody in this moment. Monte has an interesting question, and it goes a little something like this. My father transferred his house to me and my two sisters. I later bought them out after he died. Later, I put my ex-girlfriend's name on the property, but she's not on the mortgage. She has not put any money into the house or made any payments. There's a quick claim deed that added her name. What can I do to remove her name now? So Monte wants to know, how can he get his ex-girlfriend's name off the property?
Morgan, as I understand the way that he has asked this question, unless there's something we don't know, it would appear to me that the girlfriend is his girlfriend, right? Ex-girlfriend would need to transfer her interest in the property back to Monte. And I take it that she's maybe going to have issues with that. I don't know. But based on just the facts that we have, I don't know that he can just, quote, take her off the deed. It sounds like she would have to transfer her interest. So he may have to give her some money to get her, probably not what Monte wants to hear, but
this may be one of those times you have to get them to a property law expert, huh?
Right, yeah. And,
yeah.
And by the way, y'all, just so you'll know, I'm very excited to announce help is on the way when it comes to these property and deed issues. We have recently gotten a grant for a collaboration with Habitat for Humanity to help people with deed issues in this area. There's just a lot of people that are living in properties with all kinds of deed issues, and it really holds them back from getting a loan to fix up the property, getting help from Habitat for Humanity, because the deed has got to be straight in order to get assistance to those people. So we got a grant which helps fund a salary for a new staff attorney. And I'm also, I don't know that I'm authorized to disclose who it is, but we have in fact made a hire and that person has accepted. So we are very soon going to be having a person very, very experienced in real estate and probate and family law join our team as an actual lawyer for us, which will greatly help our ability to help people in Middle Georgia. We're so very excited.
That's great.
Well, that is exciting. That is great news. Mike Horner is his name, and Marty Sin is my personal injury attorney tonight. We are getting down to the nitty-gritty of your questions. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more of your questions and some good answers too, right here on Law Call. If you have further questions for Mike Horner and Middle Georgia Justice, you can reach them at 241 3rd Street, Suite 200, right here in Macon. Their phone number is 478-238-0224. And the website is www.mgajustice.org. If you have questions for Marty Sin, you can reach him at Reynolds, Horn, and Savant, also here in Macon. And you can find them on the web at www.reynoldsinjurylaw.com. And don't forget to follow Reynolds, Horn, and Savant on Facebook. All right, gentlemen, we are back with our discussion. And Mike, I understand you have an interesting story of an event you just recently went through. You want to share that with us?
But yes, so I had the privilege of helping a guy that came to see us. He was a father of a child, but not legitimated as to the child. And what that means is, just because you're a father, and even if you're on the birth certificate, you don't really have any rights as a father until you become, quote, legitimated. So if you and the mom weren't married at the time, then most men need to go through that process so that they will have rights as a father. So this fellow was not in that circumstance, but the reason he came to see us is his mother the mother of the child had the child taken away because she was acting erratically, and all kinds of things aren't worth getting into. But DFACS took the child away, placed the child temporarily with this guy, even though he wasn't officially, legitimately declared the father. So naturally, he knew that was going to be a temporary situation, and rightly came to us because he wanted to make that permanent. And so I had to learn on the go. I'd never done a legitimation before, but we filed it for him down in Houston Superior Court. And just very recently, the judge entered an order giving him total and permanent custody of that boy. And the boy who had been in a very rough circumstance, without very unstable, has now thrived in this stable relationship. I mean, his dad doesn't have a whole lot of money. but he's able to provide a stable and loving home, and the boy's grades have gone through the roof. He's got friends. I've seen him grow up just right before my eyes. I mean, he's just a different kid in 6 months than when I met him, and really, it has really heartwarming. So happy to have been able to help them.
So your services again cost nothing. Am I correct?
So yes, well, some people who are capable of paying some fee, they often will work that out with the volunteer, because we see people, some people that are very destitute, have nothing at all, and we see some people that, as they call the working poor, what have you, they have a job and have income, but they can't afford to hire a lawyer. So oftentimes our volunteer lawyers will work with them on a reduced fee basis when that's appropriate, or if it's appropriate for someone that can't afford any fee, yes, they can get services for no money at all. So it kind of depends on them and where they fall in that low income range.
So Marty, let me ask you this question then. Why do attorneys volunteer for these type of programs, or even, other type of civic programs?
Sure. Well, I think it's not necessarily a written duty, but I think a lot of attorneys do feel like it's something that they owe back to society. I mean, you have a license to practice law, and you've been fortunate enough to get that. And so the Bar Association encourages it, and a lot of employers, a lot of firms encourage it for their attorneys, and it's just a good way to give back to the community. It's a good way to use your license to help people who might not otherwise have access to the legal system, give them some guidance and some knowledge that they wouldn't have otherwise. So it's a good way to kind of give back to the community that you live in and that you're a part of.
And Morgan, I think it helps people see lawyers in a different light. We've all heard the jokes about lawyers, and they only want money, this, that, and the other. And I think it's important for people to see that a lot of lawyers have a really big heart. Most lawyers do.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for the community to see that it's the lawyers that support us, both with their money and their time. And so I think it's important for people to know that and see that.
That is important. And Mike, let me ask you this. Can non-lawyers also volunteer at the Middle Georgia Justice?
We do have some opportunities for non-lawyers to volunteer. One thing I haven't talked about is our self-help center, where we provide the forms and help people, assist people with filling out the forms in family law court. Not everybody needs a lawyer, but lots of people need assistance in getting that right. And we've had law students and other non-lawyers help with that with some brief training. So there are some ways for non-lawyers to help.
Okay, then. Well, I certainly want to thank you, Mike Horner of the Middle Georgia Justice. Make sure you give him a call at 478-238-0224 to make sure you give him a call if you have any questions or if you need his assistance. Marty Sandberg, Reynolds, Horn, and Savant, always good to have both of you on. Always good to see you. I'm Morgan Dukes, bidding everyone who's been watching tonight a very good night. Until next time, from all of us here at LawCall, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.